Haiti borders with the Dominican.
Her name is Serena Buffalino. They call her Mrs. B, and her class always begins with a pledge.
Something local, something global. Haiti.
They're words that carry
Yes.
weight here. Helping yourself means helping others, giving back, here and a world away in Haiti.
And nobody's helping them, except for people like us.
It was through her the class learned of Haiti, of the nearly 1 million orphans, many with no school, no support, no Mrs. B in their lives.
They could not wrap their head around that.
Mrs. B's students are among Toronto's most at risk. Their challenges vary from emotional and behavioral difficulties to learning disabilities. Their trauma so severe they can't function in a regular school setting, and we aren't allowed to show most of their classmates.
For most of the kids, most of society has turned them away. And in this classroom, they're accepted. They're accepted no matter what for who they are.
Take Yolanda. She came here last year so burdened and withdrawn, she would often fall silent, sometimes for days on end. It was, she says, Mrs. B's patience, her quiet encouragement, that saved her.
She actually saves people's lives from dangers.
And perhaps that's why these marginalized kids feel such a kinship with the orphans of Haiti, and why they were moved to act.
And so when Yolanda and Jackie and Patrick said, well, Miss B, we need to build them a school.
Build a school, no easy task. They started out raising money. They sold samosas, washed cars, screened movies, you name it. And in just a few months, this little class raised $20,000. So much, it's not just a one-room schoolhouse they can build, but a full 3-story school. And so Mrs. B set off on a journey she'd dreamed of, up into the dusty mountains above Port-au-Prince to a town called Canaan. It's home to thousands of earthquake refugees who live with no running water, no electricity, and no school, until now. The first step was a temporary school. It's up and running. 53 students already in uniform. The permanent school for 250 is growing from its foundations.
It makes me want to cry because she just makes me feel so awed, and I'm very proud of her.
All of this because of a handful of students back in Canada, and Mrs. B, the teacher who believed in them.
These are for you.
At another fundraiser, a special tribute to the students, accepted by someone who, without Mrs. B, might not be here.
They believe in me and I believe in them, and together we not only change our lives, but we change the world around us.
For inspiring great things and seeing the potential in everyone, Serena Buffalino is this week's Everyday Hero.
This is the reason why I do what I do, is because of Yolanda and all the...
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Thursday. My name is Laura Armstrong, and let me just fix my background a little bit here so it looks. Oh, geez, that's not good. Okay, there we go. My name is Laura Armstrong with Leadership with Laura, and today I got a really good subject on the table. We're going to talk about how to deal with difficult people, but not just how to deal with them, how to recognize them as well. So it's very interesting because there are different types of difficult people. And, you know, in my 30 plus years, I've encountered a lot of them. I've actually been a difficult person, so I understand. You know, there's moments where, you know, sometimes we're not at our best, and, you know, we actually, we're not at our best, and we actually don't reveal the best side of ourselves, right? So we're all human. We all have done that. But the fact of the matter is you have a choice about how you're going to move forward from that. So I really wanted to bring this up today. So it might, you know, bring some awareness to you guys. It might trigger some of you, but it's great to be aware of it, right? Because only in awareness and conscious, you know, being more conscious about what we do, can we shift and we change. And that's really what this whole conversation's around. So I'd like to talk about firstly dealing with difficult people. You know, difficult people are found everywhere, right? Like, so they come in every variety or form that you can imagine. But how difficult a person is for you to deal with depends a lot on factors such as your self-esteem, your self-confidence, how close you work with them, and your professional courage, right? Like this is important. Difficult people, dealing with difficult people is easier when the person is just generally obnoxious to everybody, or when their behavior affects one person. You can work together to address the behavior, and before it spirals into negativity. But it's much harder when the individual is publicly undermining your professional credibility, claiming credit for your contributions, or attacking you personally, or, like a bully, right? And I've seen this time and again. And, in my self-defense that I teach in my martial arts, this is something I address on a regular basis. So, if you think you work with a bully, do you ever feel intimidated or dread to work anywhere near that particular coworker? I know, because I used to be a bully, right? And you feel dismayed and upset about having to go to work and seeing this person. You could be yelled at, insulted, put down. If you felt psychologically or physically threatened at work, you work with a bully, right? And I don't mean at work. I mean, most of us are entrepreneurs, but the people that we deal with are vendors, are customers. Sometimes customers feel entitled to dish it out, right? I had a lot of awareness about, and I was never that threatening or anything like that, but I can be very intimidating. And some people took it as bullying, and it was just their personality type, right? So I really had to understand personality types and how to do it a little bit better, right? So I really had a lot of self-awareness around that, right? So it could be something as simple as someone talking over you at a meeting, or regularly criticizes you or steals credit for your work. 54 million Americans, this is an American number, I'm in Canada, have been targeted by a bully at work, which I found like mind-blowing, right? The other part of that is some coworkers, they have aggressive hand gestures, or they wallow in their negativity. They don't like their jobs, and they don't like working for their company. And that's who I was when I worked in corporate. After 21 years, I was not positive at my job. It was a toxic workplace. I'd been in this toxic workplace for 21 years. So I understand about bad bosses who are jerks and who don't always treat you fairly, right? Um, it affects every level of the company, right? But not only that, as an entrepreneur, it affects every level of your business. You always want to be putting your first positive foot forward, but not everybody's on that same level, right? So the best way to deal with that is, I'm going to give you a few tips, but what I want to go through is I want to go through and talk about a few different types of negative people that you may not be aware of as negative, okay? Or difficult to deal with, okay? So there's always at least, one difficult person. And, sometimes I feel like this comes in our way just to make sure we're on track, and just to challenge us a little bit as human beings to be better, to deal with situations outside of our comfort zone, because really that's where our self-growth happens. And also to maybe give some enlightenment to the person who's giving you a hard time, okay, or who is being difficult. I've dealt with difficult people for years and years and years. And when I came out of that toxic situation, I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't a bully per se. Like, I did bully in certain ways, but not anything super aggressive. I mean, I think we all do to get our way sometimes. But I was aware that this wasn't helping me in any way. So I had to change that mindset. So now I've actually had more awareness about the different types of people and recognizing their behaviors right away, right? So that we can deal with the situation. And the number one thing I would say to you before I go through these type of people is never take it personally. Even if it's personally attacking you, it's usually some issue coming from the other person. If you can have, if nothing else, that perspective, you will be ahead of the game, okay, in dealing with someone who is difficult, okay? So let's talk about the most common ones. So the most common ones, the number one is that I have here is the boss hater. And because we're mostly entrepreneurs, we are our own bosses. But there are our peers sometimes who are jealous of us. There are people who work with us who don't like us for some reason. what the solution for this is, people who, you're working with, they give you an eye roll. Well, you're not doing things their way, right? So we've all seen that type of person. I don't work with those type of people anymore because I don't have time for their issues. I need them contributing to me, not giving me a hard time. That's just holding me back from succeeding, right? It's holding them back too, but if they're not willing to see that, then I can't spend time on that. So, in a way, as the entrepreneur of your own business, you have to be selfish about who you deal with. You have a choice to deal with people who want to actually deal with you, right? And enjoy it. So, for someone like the boss hater, their behavior probably doesn't affect you directly. They can still make you feel uncomfortable, especially when you try to engage in conversation. As it's going to come up sooner or later. When this happens, simply say something like, well, it's your personal opinion. I don't want to be involved in it, but if I am involved in it, you know, eh, I'm not interested in engaging. Can we talk about something else, right? The second one is the star. The person that you work with, they're a rock star and they know it. They undermine any ideas you may have. They constantly disrupt you, interrupt you to share their opinions, which of course are better than anyone else's, right? Although this kind of person is essential in any company, their bad attitude can actually reverse any good that you're doing. So you want to be just very aware of them. So there's two main ways you can deal with the know-it-all. So the first is to actually go against their ideas. So be prepared to fight fire with fire. And a lot of the time, this will be your knowledge personality types because they tend to do a lot of research and development, and they're always right in their own mind. And sometimes that on a low emotional intelligence level can cause conflict. Okay. The second is to convince them that your ideas are actually their ideas. This means that you'll probably lose credit with your work, but you'll be able to work in a way that suits you. I choose neither of those. I just look at that person and I thank them for their input and their wisdom. I kill them with kindness, to be honest. And, they have the choice if their idea is implemented or not to walk away or not, or be part of the solution. Okay. The next one is the slider. I like this one. So this means that they simply suck. They basically do nothing. Now, they always appear busy, but they never actually are. Instead, they fob their work off to other people. And then they, or their colleagues, and then they reap all the rewards. I remember, working with people like this. I was partnering with someone in a collaboration, and she was very much like that. This was years and years ago. And she's like, okay, so you do all the writing and then we'll approach the client. Like I was doing all the work and I finally had to shut it down, right? So, they're usually likable people and charming and they know how to act the part. So you think it's just a natural, you're like, oh, okay, I'll help out. But this starts to happen again and again and again. And they do just enough work so that it doesn't look like they're not doing anything, right? And it's hard to navigate around the slider because if you call them out, you'll not only need concrete evidence to prove your point, but you also branding yourself as like a snitch, and you don't want that, right? And that's going to make you unpopular. So when they try to pass off their work to you in the first place, the way to resolve it is to just say no. Just say, you know what, I'm too busy. And I've had this happen. Someone who was approaching me for their opportunity, and I said, look, I can't use your products. I said, because of my skin or whatever it was, I was allergic or something to what was in their product. I said, but I'm happy to promote it on social media for you. I did a post for her, got lots of visibility. 3 months later or 4 months later, she sends me a post. She goes, yeah, Merry Christmas. I noticed you haven't bought any of my products, and put her link. Like it was all about her, right? Like, and so I was just like, wow. I said, actually, I can't use your products, but I did promote it. Have a Merry Christmas. Like, so I stepped into it and I set boundaries around that. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But immediately she backed off, right? I'm like, that is not the way to A, approach me, B, create an environment of collaboration that I want to be a part of. And C, I'm just not going to waste my time on somebody like that, right? So the next one is the pity party, right? These are the people that have a tragic excuse for everything. for their behavior, and always trying to bend the rules and pull on your heartstrings. They tell you that a close family member is sick, they're suffering from a headache, they have unreliable childcare. There's always something going like this. So even though they may, some of it's legit, they may need to take time off, they're the master at creating sympathy from others, right? So the next time that they start this on you, and they want you to um, change and collect their kids from school, you have to just say no and politely decline and just say, you know what, I'm so busy, I'm sorry, I just don't have time. If you do this a couple of times and you stay consistent and you keep to what you're doing, they will back off, right? And they'll go find someone else, right? The next is the self-promoter. The self-promoters are sneaky creatures, right? I've also come in contact, I'm sure all of you have come in contact with these type of people. They'll throw you under the bus without hesitation if it means them getting ahead. They'll become BFFs with the boss. They manage upwardly really well, right? Be aware of these people. So they make sure that they get special treatment, are next in line. It's best to watch your own back with this type of situation and make sure that you CC all the communication so that you've got a backup. Because this, so the self promoter knows they're aware of what's going on. Other than that, just sit back and watch them crumble. They can't take credit for anyone's any work anymore if you've got yourself protected. Okay. The next is the nitpicker, otherwise known as the perfectionist. They aren't necessarily bad, but they can still be annoying nonetheless. Okay. They usually have great work ethic, but they'll pick at every little thing. From the indentation to a font size. Again, this type of person is usually a knowledge personality type. They're all about the details. I mean, my husband corrects me, about the stupidest, smallest things, right? And it just annoys the heck out of me because I don't care, right? And like I'll say a date wrong or something wrong and he'll correct me. And I'm like, stop correcting me, right? They take the lead on projects and they dictate to people, but they're also micromanagers. So you're gonna see this if you got people working with you like that. So when dealing with them, you have to make them feel like they're actually helpful, even if they aren't. Say something like, your comments are really useful. Now that you've given me all the information I need, I'm going to get going on my side of things. If I have any questions, I'll be sure to ask you. Thanks for your help. Or the other thing that you can do is give them a project on their own, so that they can take care of that, right? The next is the non-responder. It's someone who's always hard to track down. They ignore your emails. They're never at your desk. So next time, you get somebody like them, call them out on their poor communication skills. I've done this before. And, I literally will say to them, look, I've tried to communicate with you about things. I'm not going to make an effort anymore. You get back to me. I don't say I'm not going to make an effort anymore. I've really tried to communicate with you and get a hold of you. I'm going to leave it. So you let me know when you're ready. Right. I'd appreciate it if you send me a quick reach out and let me know. And the other thing I say to people like that is I cannot read your mind, because a lot of people are in their head and they're like, oh, they know that. When actually, no, you don't know that. You don't know that. Right. And so you have to make them aware of that sometimes. The next one is the gossiper, the person who plays politics well, spreads rumors, knows the latest dirt about each and every person, right? If you find that these people are offloading on you on a daily basis, like my mom is like that, right? You have to set some boundaries, right? So you can do this in two ways. First, by simply closing your office door or putting your headphones on anywhere they're going to look at you and go like, oh, they don't have time, right? And they're going to go somewhere else, right? Or second, by simply being upfront and telling them you're not a fan of gossip, right? This may turn them against you. So what I say sometimes when I have people like that, especially like to my mom, for instance, is like, well, mom, that seems like an issue between this person and that person. Why don't you go have a conversation? And she gets really upset at me, right? For like 10 minutes. Cause I'm like, I don't feed into it, or I'll redirect the conversation. That usually works. The next is a negative Nancy. Negative Nancy in every office. They're bad attitude. They have a resting bitch face and pessimism about everything. I know in my career, I've dealt with a lot of those people. If you're given a complimentary lunch, they'll complain about it, right? The only way to deal with the negative Nancy is to avoid them at all costs. If you're making a drink, be quick, get out. You don't want to find yourself trapped in an endless conversation about how crappy everything is. And I've also brought attention to this person and just say, I actually like this and I'm grateful for it. And I leave, because then I'm not feeding into their energy as well. I have a few more here, but I want to get to some other points about overcoming these kind of people. The victim, someone who's incapable of owning up to their mistakes. The competitor, that would be me a lot of the time. Staying late to get things done. And the belittler who knocks people down with their confidence, right? Like, just be aware of these people and these toxic coworkers or toxic people that you're engaging with in your business, right? And they're the ones who if you're aware of them, you can navigate them much easier. And so now I want to talk about a few steps of dealing with the difficult people, right? That you can do. So hold on, I'm having problems here. Here we go. Okay. There are 4 questions you can ask. The first one is, what happened? What are the feelings arising in you? What do you need that you're not receiving? And what are you asking for? Now, when you're dealing with other people, let me get to this one because I think that these are, I'm going to give you some expert tactics in dealing with difficult people, because I think that these are quick and you can do it. The first one is listen. Listening is the number one step in dealing with unreasonable people, because a lot of the time they don't feel they're being heard. No progress can take place until the other person feels that they are acknowledged. I will just let people talk until they run out of things to say, and then I will speak, right? Focus on what the other person is saying. Don't tune out, right? Be engaged with the conversation, okay? Stay calm. If you escalate, they're going to escalate. And it's just going to escalate out of control. So many people I get in, who are difficult to deal with, they start raising their voice. I don't raise my voice. I keep my voice calm. I'm like, okay, so how can we solve the problem? I keep coming back to that. It frustrates people because I'm not giving them any energy for the escalation, right? That's the key here. Don't give them the fuel, right? The next is don't judge. This can be hard for some of us because you're thinking, what the heck is wrong with this person, man, right? You don't know what they're going through, right? Chances are if a person is acting unreasonable, they're likely feeling some sort of vulnerability or fear, and that's just how they're expressing it. And, this is a good one. Look for the hidden need. What is this person really, really trying to gain? What are they trying to avoid, right? And look for others around you who can help. So if you're dealing with an irate customer, quickly see if someone can help out or someone who's dealt with that situation before. Don't demand compliance. And I think we get caught in this because we have a set of rules. Some of us are completely inside the box about that, right? Telling someone who's upset to be quiet and calm down will just make him or her more irate. My husband does this to me. He's like, calm down. I said, I'm not upset. But because it's a response that he has, he automatically comes out with it, and I'm aware of that. I said, and don't tell me to calm down. I said, do I ever tell you to calm down? And he's like, no. I said, so why would you tell me that? I'm not upset. But because it's an automatic response, I realize that's where it's coming from, right? And so then we can have a conversation. So instead of engaging, instead ask the person, why are you upset? What's going on? Because again, they just want to be heard. Okay. Saying I understand actually makes things worse. This is the truth, right? So instead say, tell me more so I can understand what's going on here. So I can understand better, right? So tell me more is what they're actually hearing. They're like, oh, they actually want to listen to what I'm saying. Avoid smiling at them because this may look like you're mocking the person. Similarly, humor sometimes can lighten the mood, but more often than not, it may backfire. So, just really address their concern as a real concern. And you're not going to be smiling when you're doing that. It's a concern to them, right? Don't act defensively. Now, this is tough because sometimes when, people are being difficult, it can feel like a personal attack. You're naturally not enjoying the other person saying nasty things or things that aren't true. You're going to want to defend yourself, but the other person is so emotionally revved up, it's not going to help. They're not going to hear you, right? Remember, this is not about you. Don't take it personally, you know? Speak in a calm, low, even monotone voice, and don't try to talk over them. Wait until the person takes a breath and then speak, okay? Don't argue or try to convince the other person of anything. They're not hearing you, okay? Keep extra space between you and the other person. Your instinct may be to calm the person down by putting your arm on theirs or some other similar gesture that may be appropriate in other contexts. But honestly, if someone's really upset, they don't want you touching them. Okay? Saying I'm sorry or I'm going to try to fix this can go a long way towards diffusing the situation. Saying I'm sorry is one of the most difficult things that we have to learn to do and really mean it because we feel like we're giving something up when we do. We're admitting we're wrong. When actually, if you look at it as a part of the healing process for the other person, which is all they may need to hear, you don't have to attach all that stuff that you've got about it, right? Setting limits and boundaries. This is one of the key ones I think is here. While some of, the things that I talked about encourage listening and letting the angry person vent, you also have to be assertive and say, please don't talk to me like that, or enough. You've repeated yourself several times. I get what you're saying, right? So really, you have to just set your boundaries around what's acceptable and what's not. Trust your instinct. If your gut is saying this is going downhill fast, be ready to do what you need to do to remain safe. Look for an exit strategy. Okay. Debrief after the situation is over. Talk to someone about it. It'll give you a chance to let go. Discharge your own stress. And you put your natural reactions on hold for a while. So now is the time to discharge some of that pent up adrenaline. Go for a run, take your dog for a walk, meditate, whatever you need to do. And give yourself credit for getting through an uncomfortable situation because none of us like to be in uncomfortable situations. It's not the way we live, right? It's not the way we roll as human beings. And remember, you have the ability to walk away if you need to, right? You can simply say, I'm sorry, I don't feel like I can help in this situation. And you yelling at me isn't going to get us anywhere, right? And lastly, and most importantly, resonate compassion. Okay, this is the key to good emotional intelligence and understanding, empathy, understanding, compassion. And a lot of people see this as a weakness when it's actually one of the biggest strengths that you can have as a person, as a business person, and in your leadership. Okay. This is just another part of our everyday life, right? And the things that we do. And it's always good to relate to people who are having a difficult time, but a lot of times they're in a place where they're not going to hear you. They just want to be heard, right? So make sure that you're always compassionate, treat them with respect, but still have those boundaries. This is a fine line that you have to walk all the time when you're dealing with people, right? And the other thing too is I put it out there. I get way less difficult people than I used to because I'm just not interested in that. That's not the energy or the vibe that I put out there in my business and in my leadership and in my life, right? People always want to be treated with respect and keep your focus about, where you're going with things. You have the option to ignore someone or deal with someone or not when they're giving you bad behavior. A lot of the time I'll just walk away from someone or not react. And I'll just say, well, what this is going to do in the end for you, I know we're almost done here, is you're developing self-awareness, right? And the more you develop your self-awareness, the more you'll build your self-confidence. You'll know who you are. You'll be able to set those boundaries, be assertive, and do it in a way that people respond, not in a way where they're reacting, right? So listen, understand, be compassionate, and when it's appropriate, give feedback and just be supportive of them. Dealing with difficult people is I could spend hours talking about this, but that gives you some tips of the kinds of difficult people that are out there, the ways to deal with them. And if you step into this, and not one of you gets away with this, right? We've all dealt with difficult people. So hopefully today you've gotten some really good tips. Join me next week when I'm going to talk about how do you want to be perceived? How do you want to be seen? Right? And if that's not how you, and if right now that's not working for you, how do you change that? This is a great subject. So I look forward to seeing you next week. My name is Laura Armstrong with Leadership with Laura. You can reach me at laura@leadershipwithlaura.com. I also have a free 3-day leadership challenge for you at leadershipwithlaura.com/3daylc. So please go ahead, try that out. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. And please drop some comments on anything that we're doing here. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a great day and take care.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been shown that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. We'll match you with the perfect buddy. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
We're offering you a free membership, so please sign up today. Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a Buddies Network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Raise your hand if you've ever been busy. Raise your hand if you've ever got tired and feel like you just need a couple days off. Most people would have both hands up right now. That's our world, fast-paced and income-driven. That's why we get caught up in our own lives so often, and that's why it's understandable when most people don't focus on worries that aren't their own. So what makes someone become a humanitarian? Someone whose whole life focuses on the welfare of other humans.
When you go back and you see kids that were living on the streets, kids had no structure, they had no routine, people who had nothing, they didn't have meals. When you see that they're all of a sudden they're waking up, they have structure, they have something to do, they have a meal in their belly, their life changes completely. They, like I said, their self-esteem changes, their self-worth, their ability to know who they are in the world and what they have the potential of becoming. You know, to give that hope, to give that dream, and then to watch people actually use that to do good for themselves and others it's amazing. It becomes an addiction.
And with Serena's help, we'll find the meaning of life to a humanitarian.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? This is Barbara J. Beckley, your visibility and social media strategist. Yay. I like saying that. Oh, I keep thinking over and over again where I came. We're in a new year right now, a new year. And I'm just so excited to what's to come, not just for just myself, but for all of you out there. For all of you out there, to the point where I said I need to put something together every week to remind people about how they should expand their impact. So yes, this show comes on every Thursday, starting now, to help you understand how to create that impact, how to keep it going, how to be that trailblazer. But also understanding that it's not about you, but it's about people that you're going to touch in this world, in this universe. I'm always expressing the fact about your PPD, your purpose, passion, and drive. And you have to understand that within you first before you can even think about creating an impact. So I want to give you some tips today, just a few little tips, just some few little eye openers on what you should be thinking about, what should resonate with you while you're going out there being that wonderful trailblazer, that impactor, and that person that's going to make a difference, not only in your life, but in somebody else's life. And that's what it's all about, making that difference in somebody else's life. So let's go into the first tip for that. Excuse me. Sorry. Tips for becoming an impact. Yes, that's what it is. Simple. So there's going to be some things that I'm going to show you that basically, like I said, some tips, some things that just can resonate to say, okay, I need to remember that, or that's something I need to add in order to become that person to make a difference. So the first tip I would say is believe in you. You have to believe in yourself. You have to understand who you are. I always tell people, how are you going to explain something to others, tell them what they need to do and have a positive way of doing it if you don't believe maybe what you believe in or what you're doing? I always think about my mother a long time ago used to tell me when I was growing up. Now, she was a person, she did smoke, unfortunately, for a while, but she did quit when she got older because there was some, she was having some health issues. So it was like either you stop or it's going to get to the point where other things are going to occur in your health. But before then, when I was like when I was 10, 11 years old, 12 years old, she, like I said, she was a smoker at that time. And she used to always look at me and say, Barbara, I better not catch you smoking. You better not smoke. And I would think to myself, okay, Ma. I said to myself, because I would never say it out loud at that time, else I wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But I would say, she's telling me not to smoke. And she was really determined too, telling me this. But then she was doing it. So one thing about being an impact, you don't want to confuse a message. You have to believe in you and believe in what you're doing. And then you start telling others, maybe what to believe in and what kind of impact you're going to give them. So you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe, you got to love yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You got to stand strong in that. Because when you start going out there telling people different suggestions, or letting them know some things that maybe they might need to change, or just look at some things or think about some things, and you're doing a total opposite of what you're telling them, they're going to question your integrity. They're going to question who you're about. If you say you're one thing, but you're doing something else. If you're trying to create that long-lasting thought in their mind to make some changes, then we're going to have to make sure we believe in us and make those changes too. So believing in yourself is very important. Then, as I said before, knowing your purpose, knowing what your purpose is in life. What do you do so well that you can close your eyes and you can still do it? What do you love so much that if you didn't get paid for it, it really wouldn't bother you because you know that's your purpose in life. What do you wake up with a smile on your face and say, wow, I really like working with children, or I really like working with women, or I really like working with couples. And that just puts a big smile on your face, and you just find ways, just ways. I mean, you're just up all night just finding ways to help those individuals, those type of groups. Knowing your purpose is so important. That keeps that foundation going in your life. And that keeps you to think about what kind of impact that you want to create with your purpose. So when you're feeling certain days, when you're not feeling it, I know there's a lot of people, some days, if you're that coach, if you're that consultant, if you're that publisher, some days you might not want to get up and be like, now I got to go teach maybe a 45-minute talk or get on a webinar. Or if you are working on your expertise, we are forever learning, then you have to go to a meeting or you have to go to a conference. Like, I don't want to do that right now. But when you know your purpose and you love what you do, love what you say you do, then it's not a big deal. All that goes to the side. It's like, okay, you know what? I might be tired today, but I really want to make sure I understand who I am, go out there and do what I have to do so I can create that impact. So knowing your purpose of what you put here. I always tell people all the time, you were not put on this earth as an accident. You were put on this earth for a reason, for a purpose. We all have our special gifts in us. Even if there's a whole lot of people that are doing the same thing, you are unique than that other person. So knowing your purpose helps you expand and create that impact. The next thing, now this is what I changed up a little bit. Usually people say, well, having that attitude is good. But I put, as you've seen, have an impact attitude. An impact attitude. And what I mean by that is, it's one thing, you can have a good attitude, you can have a positive attitude, you can have a bad attitude. There's different attitudes you can have. But when you're talking about lifting somebody up in their life, being that leader, not just managing or thinking about managing, because there's a difference between manage and leadership, and you want to create that impact, you have to have a mindset or a mind flow. It's funny. I think Barbara Ellis, I'm giving her kudos right now, because we were talking the other day on our platform and we were talking about mindset, how you have the mindset. And she said, you know what? I understand about mindset, but it seemed like mindset is like, you're just like a set, like you're setting. She said, I like flow. She said, I like a mind flow because the things are flowing in. When you say mindset, it's like you set on that one thing. But when you have a mind flow, you let things come in and you're open to things to be more creative, to be more welcoming. So when I say have an impact attitude of a mindset or mind flow, that means you have to always be thinking of what can you do to create that impact in other people's lives. It's an ongoing thing that happens when you have it in your mind and that attitude you have with it. That's when you can sit there and say, okay, what do I need to think about to help these people or help a certain individual or help a group of people? What do I need to do? What do I need to do to create an impact? So every time you're thinking of something, you're always thinking of what kind of impact will it have on an individual? And that's good attitude to have, because that's going to separate from having like a bad attitude or something that is not going to work for somebody. Because if you know it's going to impact somebody's life, that's very detrimental. That's a very accountability that you would have for that person. Because you have to think about it. If you do something out there and you say something and somebody takes that in and wants to hone it into their life, Now your words or what you have done has created that impact in somebody else. And if it's something that's negative or that's not going to, it's going to harm them some kind of way, be it in their mind or physically, then that's going to be on you. That's why it's so important when people talk about, I'm a trailblazer, I'm an impactor, I'm a leader and this and that. You have to really think about what you have to bring to that. You have obligations. So you have to make sure that you have an impact attitude all the time. When you get pissed off, you might have to hone that down. There's a way of being pissed off, then there's a way of being angry, then there's a way that's being disappointed. But the way how you express yourself is important. Your attitude is very important because that can create an impact for others that create that ripple effect. And you know what? You want to make sure that ripple effect is a good ripple effect that's going to help, not sit there and harm people. So having that impact attitude is important. Then one thing that I tell everybody, and I hone into this because I had this problem 11 years ago. Yes, speak up. Speak up. I don't care. You know how some people say, well, I didn't want to say, this might be a dumb question. I know this is a dumb question. And I tell people all the time, nope. As soon as I hear that coming out of their mouth, I'm like, no question is a dumb question if you do not know the answer. If you don't know the answer to that question or what you're thinking about, or you need more clarity on it, speak up. You need to be able to speak up to get your answers. If you want to be that impact in this world, you're going to have to speak up. You're going to have to get clarity on what you're trying to do. You're going to have to understand and learn and grow by talking and asking those questions. I tell everybody, and sometimes I give people a heads up. If it's something new that I'm doing, or either a project or another job or another task or whatever I'm doing in my business or where I work at during the day, I will tell people in a heartbeat. If they're training me, I'm like, I'm going to let you know right now, Barbara Beckley will be asking questions if she doesn't understand. So get ready. Get ready. Because I need to make sure I understand. Because if I have to help somebody with this and create that impact in their life, now I have a responsibility now. So you're giving me a responsibility, and I need to make sure it's right. So whoever I have to ask questions to, wherever I have to talk, I'm going to do that. And don't feel guilty. There should be no guilt in that. You shouldn't feel it. You should never feel like you cannot ask a question. And if somebody makes you feel that way, then that's on them. That is not on you. That is on them. Now, put a little caveat to that. Now, if you're not paying attention and you're not taking notes and you keep asking that same question over and over and over, that same question, then I have to say that's on you. Because you have to take the time to take the notes, take a picture of it, whatever you got to do so it can sink into your brain. Okay, so you have due diligence to do too. You can't just sit there and be like, well, I'm asking the question over and over again. Okay, and then something's not sinking in. You're not letting that get into you. But I don't want you to sit there and feel like you can't answer the question or you feel uncomfortable. Because most of the time I tell people, most of the times when you want to ask a certain question, probably 95% of the time, other people in their mind had that same question. They just didn't want to say it. They didn't want to be the first one to stand up and say, okay, I got to ask this question. I don't think that it's going to look weird. See, and that's what happens. That's how we miss out, is when we do not speak up and ask and get clarification and understand what you're doing. I always think about, I have to understand my best in whatever I'm doing, because I know this is going to result in helping somebody else. And if I tell them the wrong answer, or if I don't know at that particular time, or I could sound confusing, that's not going to create a good impact. So it all goes back to that impact again. Like I said, these are different tips to think about when you're moving and talking about you're going to be an impactor in this world. You have to speak up. You're going to have to say something. You're going to have to talk, period. And if you don't feel uncomfortable at the beginning, some people, they might be nervous, their confidence is not there. You're going to have to write it down, send a note or something. Send something, but you're going to have to speak up. Initiate new ideas. Initiate new ideas. If you have an idea, see, one thing about a person as an impactor, they're always thinking ahead. They're always thinking ahead of what needs to be done. They're always trying to make sure that they can think of some ideas that's going to help others get to another step in their life or move them to some results that they're looking for. That's what entrepreneurs do. When you own your own business, or if you're under, like a franchise or something, you are always trying to create new ways to help people. Well, that's what you should be doing. But most of the time, you should be initiating new ideas, new concepts, a new thought process. How can you build certain things? How will things be relatable or relevant? Or what's trending? You know how they said, what's the new trend? What's trending? Prime example. I told you at the beginning, I'm a visibility and a social media strategist. Well, you heard social media in there. Social media is changing every second of the day. It used to be maybe every other day. No, that's gone. That's gone. Social media is changing just alone when people are saying, I'm having problem with engagements and people seeing my information on social media, because the algorithm is changing every other day on different platforms. So if you don't keep up with that and creating some new ideas, initiation of new things to work that out so you can kind of see if you can be a little ahead of the game, then you're going to have some issues. So then your impact is not going to be such an impact that you want it to be. So you have to be on the ball. You have to be thinking those thoughts to help move forward in what you need to do so you can help others. Remember, what are you trying to do? You're trying to expanding your impact. So you have to be that person to think outside that box, or even say there is no box. So I always tell people, forget the box. Let's get the box out the way. Move that forward, because you need to have an open mind on what's going on so you can, those new ideas can come flowing in, instead of you saying, well, it's always been this way, so, oh, well, I can't do nothing else about it. No, you have to initiate those ideas, those thoughts. And listen. That's even more important than talking sometimes. Just sitting back, looking around your surroundings, looking over the surroundings, either way it goes, listening to people talk in a conversation, in a networking setting. Listen to people around you when you're working on projects or you're working with others. Just listen to the world and what they're saying and what's going on right now. Listening to your clients on what results that they want to see in their lives, and see that if maybe your product or service is going to help them get to those results. Listening in relationships. Why is a certain individual acting a certain way or feel a certain way? Or maybe they're upset, angry, sad, or happy. Listen to what they're talking about. Listen to what they're going through. Listening internally with you. You need to listen internally on what's going on with yourself. So listening is so important. And sometimes you have to slow it down and bag back. And I always tell people, sit somewhere in a nice area that you can quietly. And if your house is noisy, then you might have to go, some places people have to go in a closet or the bathroom or down in the basement somewhere. Or if it's not too cold or whatever, what the temp is, go outside, take a short walk or sit outside. But you have to take that time out to listen And when people are talking to you, don't sit. Okay, I'm going to give you a big no-no. A big no-no. When people are expressing themselves to you, that means they trust you in your judgment on what you have to say, or your suggestions, or what they might want from you. They're trusting you. So give them the respect alone to listen what they have to say and take it in, and show that through body language and face language or what have you, that you're listening to them. They will be so gracious and thankful for that, because first of all, they picked you to do it. And then some people will say, okay, I wish they'll be done talking so I can say what I have to say. You hear what I said? I wish they would stop talking so I can say what I have to say. That's selfish. When it's listening, there's no selfish involved. You have to be listening for what's going on around you. Because again, we're going back to what's tips of being to impact. How are you going to impact or be an impactor if you're not listening to what's going on, so you know what to impact, so you know what to say? Sometimes when you hear somebody say something, that's what helps you know what to say to that individual instead of just saying your agenda. Because sometimes your agenda might not be the right agenda at that time. You have all this in your head. Well, I want to say this to them, and I want to say it like this, and I want to do it this way. And then somebody shouts out, I'm in pain. I'm hurting inside. I'm depressed. It hurts so much. And in the back of your mind, you were ready just to do your agenda. Well, I'm going to say this when this and all that. Now somebody shouted out how they feel. Did you listen to how they feel? So you might have to change up the tone or the layout of what you have to say to them, because now they're reaching out. They're basically reaching out, saying how hurt they are. Now, this is just an example of how important it is to do that. Now, it could be on the opposite side. Some people be so happy. So you want to know what they're happy about, so you can celebrate with them in the victory that they have. So yes, listening is very important. That's why the old saying always says, and I always say this, that's why there's 2 ears and 1 mouth. So sometimes you have to shut the mouth. My mother used to say, she used to say, shut your trap. I used to be like, what trap? What's the weird trap? Me as a kid, I would always, that's one thing about it. There would be certain sayings that would say back in the day, and I always be so literary. I'd be like, well, what? Like my mother used to say, well, what? Shut your trap up. Shut your trap up. And I'm sitting there like, okay, where's the trap? And why you want me to shut up? Because I don't see a trap. But she was talking about my mouth. She was talking about my mouth. So that's what we have to do sometimes. Listen. And then when you listen and get the right information and understand what the other people are saying, or individual or group or what have you, then you know how to approach and say what you have to say. That's when you can do the speak up a little bit easier, because now you know what's going on around you. Now you know what you're listening to, or what you listen to, what you have to go from there. So that's the other thing about listening. And then help others. Help others. You talking about you want to be that impact. You're talking about you want to help so many people. I hear it all the time. I just want to help everybody. I just want to help people. I just want everybody to be happy. I just want everybody to just love on each other. I hear it all the time. In fact, I say it. I say it. And then I had to ask myself, okay, Barbara, you want to help others. You want to help them in their social media. You want to help them with their visibility. What your company is, what you do. Then what are you doing? How are you creating that impact so you can help others? What's your task? What is your plan of action? See, this is what I'm asking myself that. You might have to ask yourself that. I'm beating me up right now because I don't want to touch nobody's name right now, because I want you to think about it. If this is hitting home, then it's hitting home. But I had to let it hit home for me, because that goes back to believing in me and understanding my purpose. Like I said before, all that goes into that. And before you start helping others, you have to help yourself. If you're not on track on what you need to be doing, then talking about, I just want everybody to love each other, I just want to help everybody. Yeah, okay. You need to help you first. But another old saying, you got to put the oxygen mask on you before you put the oxygen mask on somebody else. You can't save anybody, can't help anybody if you need help yourself. That's just point, but this is straight out, straight forward. You cannot help others if you are not together yourself. And you have to admit that and understand and work it out. And nothing's wrong with that. In fact, I tell people, please try to work it out. Because if you don't, and you're trying to impact others, help others, that's a residue from you that's going to go out there to the world. And it might not be the right residue that you want sprinkling around. If you're dealing with some really deep thoughts, some anger or whatever that's in you, and you're talking about you helping others, but you have an attitude problem, or you're yelling at somebody, or you don't have, you don't have that compassion for a person, then there's a problem there. So you got to step back and say, okay, what is the real deep problem? Not the Band-Aid, but what is the deep, deep hurt in you? See, you got to do a lot of deep thinking here for yourself. And then you can say, okay, now that I have that together, now that I understand, not saying you might not be fixed, but now that you understand yourself, you're looking in that mirror, you're asking those questions to yourself, you're working it out, because we're always going to be working out something. So we're not going to be perfect. I'm not saying be a perfect person, but at least you stepped up and you looked at yourself. You said, hey, I know I got a problem in this area. So I know I have to be careful when I'm talking to others, because I'm still dealing with some things of my own. So at least you stepped up and said, hey, I got to do something here. If I'm really talking about being an impact and want to help people and expand my impact to others, then I got to check myself. It's a self-check. So you have to do that before you can help others. And then being confident. It's one thing to tell somebody, I believe in me. Yeah, I believe in me. Yep. I'm good. I'm very good. I believe in myself. Now, when I say it like that, does that sound confident? Does that sound like I really truly believe in myself? Or does it sound like somebody told me to say that? What's the difference? There's a difference in that. But when you say something to yourself like, I believe in who I am. I know who I am. Deep inside, I am intelligent. I am smart. I can talk to others. I can help others build in their life. I can give them some sensibility of value because I value myself, so then they can value themselves. So I say it like that. Isn't that a little bit more, sound more confident than the other part that I did about, yeah, I just like myself. Yeah, I have knowledge. Yeah, I want to help people. I want to make an impact in their life. That's not confident. You have to sound confident. People need to hear that from you. Again, if you're trying to help others and you sound like a sick puppy, oh, sick puppies. Why did I pick the sick puppy? I'm sorry, puppies. But some puppies get sick. So we're just going to use that. You just sound, then people will be like, well, wait a minute here. It sounds like you need somebody to impact you. Then you need somebody coming in and give you an impact. So you need to make sure that you're confident in what you're doing. Anything, I don't care, standing strong. If you have a purple shirt on that has an orange in the front, and it just looks, some people might say that looks kind of weird. Why they got that? You have to be confident enough to stand there and say, you know what? I like this shirt. I like this purple shirt with the orange on it. So be it. This is me. People will resonate with the confidence coming out of you. They might not really agree with the shirt and what they look like, but that's on them. but you're confident of what you have. And that's what, and just using, I know that's a reach, but no, sometimes it's not a reach like that. You might have things that you love or like or agree with because that's your values, or that's what you do in your business or your life. And some might not like it. Some people might not like it. Some people don't like my background of the diamonds. They'll be like, "Ugh, do we have to have those diamonds in the back of us?" And I'm like, "Ugh, yes. If you're on my show, yeah." See, I got that confidence. I could just stand back and say, "No, what color you want? I'll change it." So now every time somebody comes on and I interview somebody on the Diamond Factor, I'm changing backgrounds because somebody didn't like the background. I mean, I even had an individual said that they didn't want to do the interview. They said, "You know what, Barbara, we could do an interview, but until you take that background down, I'm not going to do it." Okay, fine. See, again, the old Barbara would have said, "Okay, let me take it down because I really don't want to lose you as an interviewee. So let me just figure out a way how to do this." I would have figured it out for him. But no, I say I'm confident. This is my brand. You're coming on my show to get interviewed. I'm helping you get visibility, but guess what? This is the brand. This is what it's all about here. So if you don't agree, we're gonna agree to disagree, and I'm gonna respect that, and and hopefully you respect me, and that's how it goes. So when you build that confidence in you, then that gives you the ability not to always go for everything and things that you don't agree with, because now you're confident in yourself. And I'm not saying being nasty with it, but just show that, hey, I believe, going back to you believe in yourself, I believe I'm confident enough in me to stand strong in what I'm doing. And that's what it's just all about. And then open to learning. Open to learning. We have to always, and I mean this, we have to always be open to learn and grow in what we do. I always tell people I will never get tired of learning until God sends me home, until I transition from this earth, from this universe. I will be forever learning and growing through other people, through books, through the news, TV, through webinars, workshops, through films, anything that's out there that you can learn from, through Google University, YouTube University, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to be forever learning, forever searching, because one thing about it, the thing about that is that you need to keep your mind going. You want to keep your mind active. And always thinking of different ways to do things, being creative. Remember, I said having those new ideas, initiating those new ideas, I said earlier. And also, if you do have your business or you work for somebody or whatever, it doesn't matter. You want to make sure that you're creating that intelligence in you, that wisdom in you. So always be open to learning. I learn from everybody. I learn from people that I really don't agree with, and I learn from people that I do agree with. I always say, you know what? We don't agree with that, but I hear what you're saying. See, that's me. You see how all this is coming back with all the tips for impact? I'm listening to what they're saying. So I'm being open. Now it's up to me to take it, either use it for my being, it helps, or to say I'm going to put that on the shelf. Or it might not even go on the shelf. It might just be thrown away because it's like totally off of what I'm saying. But what I did is I gave the opportunity to listen to what they had to say. And that's sometimes what we miss out on. See, if you kind of you might miss out on people giving you something or telling you something that could be good for you in the long run. And I mean good for you, like warnings. See, sometimes when I hear people that are not saying the right thing, that's a warning to me. I'm glad that they said, because now they gave me a heads up of what not to do, So always be open to learning. You want to make sure you're doing that. So expanding your impact, I will be coming on every Thursday moving forward. This is one of the new platforms under the Diamond Factor Experience. And I'll be coming with tips. I'll be coming with different ways, ideas regarding creating an impact, regarding your concerning your visibility, increasing your visibility in certain areas. That's going to fall a lot of different a lot of different topics. I'm going to talk about some things regarding social media. So there's going to be a lot of value. Let's just say I'm just going to bring you some value to you, bring you some value to help you. I'm going to be an impact for you to move forward. So that's what I want to do. And all those tips that I said, and just to say real quick, all those tips that I gave you, from believing in you, knowing your purpose, having that impact attitude, speaking up, initiating new ideas, listening, listen, helping others, being confident in what you're saying, and being open to listening. You have to be open to listening. So with that said, I want everybody to always know how important you are, and that you have a special gift in you, and you have to nurture that gift. It's there, but a lot of times you have to nurture it. I'm not where I was 10 years ago. I'm a different person. We all should be forever, like I said, learning and growing. But you're always going to have that special gift in you, but you just want to keep nurturing it every single day so you can expand your impact. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you at the next episode. I like saying that, next episode of Expanding Your Impact with Barbara Beckley.